Good afternoon, everyone. EFL teachers who are so enthusiastic about changing the situation they see has to be changed. We have been here. We've come so far, thinking, looking into the situation more seriously, more minutely, and more meticulously than before. We, the team of three, myself, Sagun Shrestha, and Suman Lodari, have been there, giving you a nudge this time and the other time, and then inviting you to write and share. Go back to your classroom and think, look at it, think why this is happening, how it is happening, what are the factors that are leading to this situation. So we've tried our best to help you think more seriously and see the point, the crux of the matter. And today, the third webinar, we are here. I'm in Nepal, now currently in Puskar, and Shagunji is in Ireland, and Sumanji is in Australia. So 3 time zones together. And we are also with Saloni Nemafuki, who is in Kathmandu. I believe she's in Bhaktipur, to be specific. And Puskar Bhatta is somewhere in Pokhara. So these 2 participants who we invited to share their thoughts, their problems and puzzles, how they notice them and how they try to decide. It was this that they saw. It was not just the perception, but sort of, proven by the evidence that they try to collect. And then they're going to share where they are and what they are up to. So we have made good progress. In the first webinar, we gave our introduction. We took sort of your introduction in some way, and we gave orientation on what is EAR, Exploratory Action Research. And in the second one, we shared our insights, ideas, supported by the literature, the readings, mainly the book by Richard and Paula on Exploratory Action Research. And today we are here to help you to better understand, better crystallize the issues, the agenda that you would like to handle. So today what you will do is you will try to consider the alignment between the issue that you saw, the objective that you have, and the questions that you have formulated. Because if the questions relate very well to the issue, then the outcomes will be what we want. Because we need to see the issue in such a way that we formulate the right questions, and then whatever comes out, action research doesn't always end in a positive note, but whatever comes is in line with what we decided. So each question that you formulate needs to be reconsidered, rethought against the purpose or the objective of the project, what your project is. And also, you cannot only think back on what you saw and what questions you were asking, but you also need to, look forward. That is the data collection process that you will undertake. So how you will do that? So your purpose, your objective purpose, and then your questions in line with the issue, and also, a good platform, a good context for collecting the right data using the right tools. So this is what you will need to consider. And I believe all of you, with your experience of teaching EFL in Nepal and your enthusiasm, your passion, and then what we saw in the last month is we expected questions, puzzles, problems, and we created one platform on Google Doc, and there we received very interesting, thought-provoking problems and issues together with the questions, and we've tried our best to understand your situation, your questions, and we've given our feedback. So I believe you have seen our comments. If you think you have some other insights, then we can always share back and forth. We can discuss. But today we try to move on. But still, what we want is we would like to hear from each of you. There are 29 participants who have added. Put up their issues and questions. We'd like to hear from all of you, but due to time limitation, we cannot hear from you. We'll try to, bring you time again, this or that participant. But today we have got two participants here. First is Saloni Memafuki. She's going to share her experiences of what she has done so far and how she came here. So next, I would like to invite Saloni to share her experiences of undertaking this exploratory action research and her insights. Saloni, off you go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Lakshman, sir. Okay, thank you, sir, again. So it's me, Saloni Nemafuki. I'm actually currently working in NCCS as lower secondary English teacher. And today I'm here to share some of my problems, or let's say puzzles, that I had while teaching my pupils in the classroom. I actually had many problems, but one that triggered my mind, and it was always in my mind, that I couldn't solve, and I thought this was the good platform for me to just explore and then come out with the good solution. The problem that I had is about writing, creative writing, especially creative writing of my children. So I want the next slide, Shagun sir. Thank you, sir. So basically, my context about today's presentation is how I saw my problem. There are many problems, so I just thought, before solving all those problems, it's better to solve or start from one. So I made some exploratory questions, and I was also encouraged by the assignment that I was given after second webinar. And there are some important things that I realized after I actually made up the questions, and I have planned so many things, and I have actually used many things that I have come up, like answers that I've come up with my own questions. So the questions that I basically made are these, as you can see. So the first one is, what is it that is not making my students interested in creative writing? Most of the time, I usually have a day, or let's say 45 minutes in a day, to make them write something, but I don't see that my students are interested. So this is the first question that came up in my mind, that why actually they're not interested, and what is it that is not making them interested in creative writing? Because if they could write, or if they could imagine and write, then that would make them change how they take English as learning. So that was the first question. And second one is, how will my students realize that writing is equally important to enhance their English speaking and reading? So until and unless we don't write, and we don't repeat what we write, we cannot learn. So I wanted my students to realize that writing is equally important. Yes, they do write questions and answers of the question, which is in the book itself, textbooks itself, but they don't write the thing that come up in their mind. So that was the second question that came up in my mind. Next was, how can I encourage my students to write? So basically, these three questions, they are interrelated to each other. So one is their interest level, which is actually low. The second one is, how would they realize and how would they enhance their, or uplift or upgrade their interest level? And the third one is from my side, that is how to encourage them to write. So these are the three questions. And can I go to next slide, Shagun sir?
Yeah, I have clicked on the next slide. Probably it will take some time. We're sorry.
Yes, maybe.
Can you see now?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yes. So the fourth question is how I can make my creative writing class more effective. So since they were not interested, and since didn't they did not like to write, I wanted my children to I want my class to be more effective, because it was important according to me. And it's not we teachers think that everything is important, but children don't take it as how we think. So I wanted my creative class more effective, and I wanted to know how can I do that. And the last one, the fifth question, is what are the ways to find out my students interested areas or topics to write. I usually make up my own topics. I give them and I ask them to write, okay, this is creative writing class, you have to write this. But I have never of thought of finding out what are actually my students interested areas are. So I really wanted to know what are the ways to find out my students interested areas, because if they are interested in something, then obviously they will write. So I wanted to know the topics and I want to write the topics. So these are the 5 questions that I've actually made. And there are many things that I realized after I made up these questions. The first one was dynamic environment. So this dynamic environment means the environment is changeable. It changes. Today, if my 30 students wrote something in their exercise book, then it doesn't mean that they will always write, or they will write in the next period. So it's changing. The environment is changing, and it's very monotonous for them to sit in one class every period wise. Every 45 minutes, teacher comes, changes, and then they have to force themselves to do something. So environment is dynamic for them, but they are monotonous. So environment is, according to the subject wise, is changing, but for them it's monotonous. So I realized that it's monotonous, and their mind, I wanted creativity to come out. Because of that monotonous environment, it couldn't. And another thing is lack of realization. Yes, the students of the level that I teach, they realize very less that how important writing is. And next one is topic I give is they are not according to the students' choice. So they don't have choice. They just have, I'll just write something on the board and I ask them to write on it, maybe 200 words, maybe 150 words, and then they don't have choice. They can't say that, ma'am, I don't like writing in this topic. So I realized that I have been doing that. And next one is guidelines to be provided, which I have not. I usually say, okay, you write something that you write a paragraph on the dream that you saw last night, but what actually they are going to write about. Okay, dream, what kind of dream? So I haven't been providing those guidelines. I just say, okay, write an essay on dog. They will write, yes, dog has 2 eyes, four legs. They will write that, but they will not write, I have a dog. Or they will not make it creative. Everybody will write the same kind of answer, but they will not make it creative. I can give them guidelines to do something. I haven't been doing that. I realized that. Next one is creative writing had become a compulsion. As I have said previously also, it has become compulsion. They cannot choose. It is related to the third point that I have written. The creative writing, they cannot choose. They have to do it. And whenever something is given to the students which is made compulsion, they don't like to do it. And that is the thing that I have realized. And the next one is talk to them to come to solution. Now, it's my perception, or it's my thought, that I am thinking that creative writing has become compulsion. It's my thinking that I haven't been providing guidelines. It's my thinking that the topics that I've given are not according to the student's choice. But I have to talk to them. What is their thinking? My thinking and their thinking, if both of the thinking, or the thinking that I'm having or and they are having, is the same, then I can come up with the more rigid kind of solution. So I need to talk to them so that I can have the solution that I want. Actually, the final solution is them to write. So next one is what I plan. I have planned many things after I have realized, and then I have planned to make, and I have made certain kinds of a list of topics. I have planned to make it. I have made it. I have been trying this in my class as well, and then make chits of different topics to provide to the students. And the topics, what I've thought is the topic will not be written only by me, but my students will also be writing what actually they want to write about. And the cheats will be given to each of them so that they can choose, and they will have the feeling that, okay, I choose this topic, so I will be happy and I will try to write on it. So they will be, when they will be taking the cheats or choosing their cheats, then they will feel like they are the one who is leading, and then they would write. Next is change of environment. So how can I have planned how to change the environment is, it's monotonous to be in one place from straight from 9 to 5 or 9 to 4. It's very difficult to sit on that same desk for whole day. So I have thought of changing the environment for them, maybe taking them to the park of the school itself, children park, or the dancing room, so that they have change of environment and they make themselves free to write, and they have peaceful environment especially. And another thing is use of imagination, and for this I need to give them a guideline, because until and unless we don't tell them to do something which can go inside their mind, then they cannot imagine. And imagination also comes with different types of speaking. I have tried this in my classroom actually. I have made them close their eyes and listen to what I speak, and then see what they have seen or what they have imagined, and to write that. And among 30 students, I have found that 20 of them wrote what they have imagined. So imagination is very powerful for creative writing, and I will be continuing this. And providing guidelines, yes, of course, that with imagination, uh, since I'm providing guidelines in the process of imagination, I will be providing guidelines to do or write in each of the topics they are given. Next one, to talk to my colleagues and talk to my students. I have talked to few of my colleagues, and I am also planning, as I've read the book that we were given in the first webinar, that talking to our colleagues, co-teacher, and then asking them to observe the classroom, and then if they give us different kinds of suggestions, then that would also bring change. And I would also be talking to the students, because they are the one who are writing, and if I talk to them, then I would know what exactly their problem is, and then I will come to the solution. That's it, sir.
Any queries anyone has, then you can just drop in chat box right now so that we can pick, and then we can go back to Saloni if you have any questions. If not, then yeah, please keep on posting your questions to Saloni. We'll just take this at the end as well. Thanks a lot, Saloni ma'am. Actually, it was really wonderful
Thank you,
presentation.
sir.
Your questions were really good enough. Like the issue that you are trying to explore, which is learners' less involvement in creative writing. It's really the common issue that we
Yes.
found after going through the let's say different postings on the Google Doc. So some people who are exploring the same issue can get much insight from Saloni ma'am, and then in being in a big team as well, you yourself can throw some questions to other. That's it. Uh, Let me make some remarks on
Thank you, sir.
Saloni's
Thank you, sir.
presentation. By the way, yeah, there
Yes,
are
sir.
some
Yes, sir.
questions. I guess you can. Yeah, I can put forward these questions immediately so that okay, Soloni ma'am, will you be available again for some, let's say, 2 to 3 minutes time to answer these all questions? Let me read it out for you.
Yes.
Porsu Srestha sir has asked, how can you make your colleagues watch writing class? Number one, it's more about colleagues taking colleagues' help to observe your class. Bhusal Pandey, uh, sir, ma'am, okay, has asked the question: is this a proposal or already research? This is a really good question, which I too had got it. Okay, so Saloni, ma'am, over to you for some time.
Okay, so the first question that Percy sir has asked. So I have them to actually observe my class being inside the classroom, or maybe if I am taking my students out of the classroom, then without the students knowing that there is another teacher observing them as well as me, I can ask them to see what exactly the students are doing, and when I'm speaking to them, what exactly I'm sounding, and how they are taking my speaking, and how are they influensive or not. That is the first one. And what was the second? Vishal sir's question was, is it a proposal, or is it was what was it, sir?
Yeah, is this a proposal
So
or
Joseph,
already researched?
uh, I will not say it's as a proposal, as it's my kind of research actually, and along with the research, I am taking it or using it practically. That's why. You can say that I am exploring as well as going along with my exploration, and trying to take it practically.
Okay, so
Thank you,
just
sir.
to get clarified, it's not the research that you had already
Yeah.
conducted. It's on the exploration phase itself, right?
Yes, it's not.
Okay, so
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
taking some help of Soloni ma'am's remarks, let me put it this way. You could see there were some assumptions of Soloni ma'am's, like, we all have some assumptions, by the way, but we are not sure
Yes.
whether they are actually the ones they persist in the classroom. So for this, he's exploring. Uh, there's next question as well, which you
Mm,
can. Yeah, thanks for your clarification. Okay, what type of guidelines you are
mm,
planning to provide? I think we can discuss it later as well, because right now we are only problematizing, let's say, or I mean, right now we are only framing a problem into the, let's say, creating some questions out of the problems. Then next phase we'll be discussing, like, today itself, at the end we will be also discussing what different strategies that we can adopt to conduct research, which Suman sir will be dealing. So
mm,
please have some patience till that time. So right now I would love to discuss once again the Soloni ma'am research questions in quite a specific way, which she has already done. So these are the research questions you could see on the screen right now. So if we take one at a time, so let's see. Our problem is learners' less involvement in creative writing. The first question is, what is it that is not making my students interested in creative writing? She wants to explore what exactly are the reasons for their less interest in creative writing. And this is purpose, by the way. You can see here the purpose. And then the data collection strategy which she can adopt, we think, are interview with students so that she can
mm,
understand their perception. So what exactly can make them more interested? So she can find out the reasons, and then derive some kind of strategies from their own answers as well. Their answers means learners' answers too. And colleagues, she also can ask colleagues to observe the class, as Professor Shrestha sir was mentioning earlier. It's sometimes we might feel it like it's really difficult to approach, but once you slowly build a kind of rapport, it's possible. And then, yeah, some instances were there from the farmer project as well, like asking colleagues help to do it, and because you will say, I'll accept the reality, I'll accept your comments, so be critical, and then be let's say, try to inform me with much information as possible. So if you tell them, I'm sure even the colleagues' observation for your own class, or asking help, sorry, taking help of your colleagues to observe your own class, can be one of the strategies, which we'll discuss later too. Now, second question: how will my students realize that writing is equally important to enhance their English speaking and reading? Could you think for some time, at least for a couple of a minute, let's say, what could be the purpose of it, and what strategies can we adopt to explore this question? By the way, can you just type it? Okay. Bhusal Pandey has replied, like to know the perception of the students. Okay. Any other comments? Any other? Okay, let's move on then. Uh, yeah, see, to me, like, the purpose of this research question is to find out their views, as Bhusal Pandey ma'am has, ma'am or sir, sorry, it's all these surnames. So, okay, uh, as Bhusal Pandey has replied, like, to know the perception of the students, it's to learn their perceptions. Next one, like maybe interesting skills. Puskar has said, okay, Rima Karna, make them write whatever they listen. Okay, let's see now. Let's tally here. To find out their views towards creative writing and its relation to reading and writing. Actually, without understanding their views, it will be really difficult for us to derive some strategies as well. So through these questions, he's trying to check their views towards creative writing, and then the strategies that she can adopt is interview with students. I think Pema Bhusal Pandey. Okay, Pema Bhusal Pandey sir. Okay, so similarly, second question, again third question, how can I encourage my students to write? See, the purpose is to find out the strategies to enhance learners in writing. And then the data collection strategies, you can interview with the students and colleagues. Even we can interview with other colleagues as well, so that we can learn what they have been doing so far, and how we can encourage our students as well to write more. And going through some literature as well, it will help you. So what we are trying to do here is, each question has the purpose, and which will also make you plan for actions. And each question is aligned to some certain strategies as well. Those strategies which will help us to collect data, so that it can make us have some informed choice or informed decision at first. So is it clear? In that case, like, okay, we can keep on discussing the further as well, like, her other questions. How can I make my creative writing class more effective? She's asking herself, and again, this means like, again for this as well, she can review literature. She can also ask again students, like, what do they think are the strategies which they would really love to be engaged in for creative writing, and again she can derive. Or sometimes again interviewing some friends, can be colleagues of our own school or can be colleagues of other schools as well. Or sometimes can be very casual conversation as well. No need to have the kind of formal interview itself. Or sometimes kind of focus group discussion in the classroom too. So there are multiple strategies. So what we mean to say here is, like, each question has got its purpose, and then each question can be explored through some certain strategies, as we saw. So very well formulated questions, Saloni ma'am. Thanks a lot. Now, without spending much time, we'd like to go to Puskar Bhard. I'm not sure whether Puskar Bhard sir will be able to speak today. In that case, like, let's try first. Puskar Bhard sir, just a minute, please.
Sir.
This is your first slide. Over to you, Puskar sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, sir, can you hear me, sir, now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can everyone hear? Could you please text?
Okay.
Can you hear, Puskar sir?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you, Sagun sir, respected Lakshman sir, and then Suman sir. Okay, sir.
Please go ahead.
Sir, yes, sir. Thank you for your great help, great support, for giving me this ample opportunity to express my to share my feelings on exploratory action research, sir. Shall I start, sir?
Sure, please.
Okay, sir. And as far as I'm going to talk about my interest in exploratory action research. I found exploratory action research different from the old version action research. Before I studied exploratory action research handbook provided by or written by Richard Smith and Paula Rogalado, and I knew only action research. It was somehow different from this new concept, exploratory action research. And then the first preliminary, as I believe, this exploratory or diagnostic phase, as you said, is the preliminary part of this exploratory action research. And I simply started studying about exploratory action research, and it got my attraction. Yeah, I was very much attracted by the very term exploratory action research. And as I read on the book, I found many interesting things there in the exploratory part. And then I made up my mind to work on it as my classroom-based research. And then immediately after that, I started working on exploratory phase. Sir, would you give me next slide, please? Thank you, sir. Then, as I believe, exploratory or diagnostic phase, it has three things, as I believe, as Richard Smith and Paula have given in their books. And planning to explore means posing questions and getting data, and then exploring or devising different ways to gather data, analyzing and reflecting, answering questions on the basis of data. And these three things, first of all, I went through exploratory or diagnostic phase of my exploratory action research, and through that process, I planned to explore first. I planned to fix my position, to fix my issue in the classroom. Then I started exploring. Exploring means I started devising different ways to gather data, especially to locate myself in the situation, in the current issue in my classroom. Then analyzing and reflecting, then using or posing myself in the classroom situation. I devised some ways, some techniques to gather data, and after that I analyzed them and reflected on them and found something different analysis as I had assumed earlier. So next slide, please. Thank you, sir. And my exploratory questions are, what do my students think about reading exercises or activities in English language lessons? As I have been teaching in one of the government aided school or public school in one of the remote parts of Kaski districts, the students most of the students are from Gurin community, and they do not like to study, they do not like to read. Whatever I attempt in the classroom, they just neglect everything in the classroom, and they are very, I found them, let's say, as I assumed them, they were very poor at reading text. They couldn't decode even a single word. They just have the habit to listen to me in the classroom. I don't find their active role in the classroom. Whatever I try to do to bring them to the attention of reading and or listening to me, and then whatever I try to engage them in the overall classroom activities there, they are less motivated every time. So I posed this question as, what do my students think about reading exercise or activities in English language lessons? And my second exploratory question is, how do I teach them reading comprehension? And I have been teaching them English reading comprehension for the last 2 years, but I'm not satisfied with them. I'm always unsatisfied with what they have shown, especially whatever technique I used, whatever ways I applied. They were found less motivated, less interested, and then I made up my mind to do something for them there. And my third question is, what is their prior knowledge in reading? Actually, as I assumed, I thought their prior knowledge in reading may be very poor, because they have very less chances to read at home. I visited their homes. They get hardly any time to read at home, and even in the classroom they get less time to read. But now, then looking at those all things, I assumed, let's say this is my assumption, maybe, and then their prior knowledge or their experience in reading is very less. So this is the third question. And the fourth question is, how do they perform in reading comprehension? And as I posed this question as an exploratory question, I wanted to know at what level their reading comprehension is now at present. Yeah. So I posed these 4 questions to assist me, to find me, or to go on or to carry on my exploratory research, exploratory action research. Thanks, sir. Then devising different ways to gather data. I try to devise these different ways to gather data. Working upon those all 4 different exploratory questions, I positioned myself in the classroom that my students are poor at reading comprehension. It's not only because of their reason, but it's because of me also, my teaching, reading to them. And then I started keeping my everyday teaching journals. These are some of the ways that I have applied, that I have used in my classroom to answer those questions. I started keeping my everyday teaching journals since the very moment I found or I devised those questions. Then I started keeping my everyday teaching journals. I kept these teaching journals, what I saw in the classroom, what I heard from my students, and then how I felt there. And I started writing at the very moment. And then I asked one of my critical friends to observe my class as I was teaching. I did these all things in the class. I have already done these all things. And my one of my critical friends in my class, and to give me some hints, to give me some helping points that may help me further analyze my questions. And then next one, I conducted a focus group discussion with the students of grade 7. I made them sit in a separate room. I threw up a question or a puzzle or an issue of exploratory action research, like I asked them to talk freely on themselves. I kept the recorder in between them, and they sat together there, and then they talked freely about their background knowledge, about their experience in reading, and how I have been teaching them for a long time there. And they expressed, I was not with them at the moment they were talking, and then I went immediately outside from the room. They talked for about half an hour, and then they discussed themselves. They talked about they talked about themselves. They shared their feelings, which they, I believe, could not express in the classroom with me. And they almost all of them expressed in Nepali. And later on, as I transcribed their sayings, their sayings, what did I come to know that most of them have very little time at home to read the text that are given as homeworks. And then even in the classroom, what they said in their recorded video, that they are poor in reading because of even my teaching reading strategies. They don't understand most often. And the most important thing is that in the textbook, what they read, the texts are very difficult ones. They don't understand even a single word there. They just try to find out the right answer to the question that are asked in the exams. So they are somehow they somehow expressed their feelings, and I was happy with those all sharings that the students shared with me through this focus group discussion. And then the last strategy that I used was I took a reading comprehension test finally, and I wanted to see at what level their reading comprehension was. So I composed 30 minutes pre-test, pre-reading test, and almost all of them secured very less marks. Let's say below 10 marks. They couldn't secure 15 or 20, and almost they secured average marks, means below 10 marks. And I was not satisfied with that, and it clearly stated that they are really poor at reading comprehension. So next slide, please. Yes, and after analyzing and reflecting the findings that I found at the exploratory phase, I started noting down what I saw in the class, and the data were gathered, analyzed, and evaluated. I used my own journals and friends' observation notes. I collected my journals, I collected my critical friends' notes, and then transcription of focus group discussion and test discourse. I analyzed them, I put them together, and then I put them in 3 columns as the perceptions of the students, as the perception of the friend, and the behavioral change in the students as a result of the test that they took part. And then analyzing and reflecting. By analyzing and reflecting, I came to conclusion that the issue that I had raised before exploring was how my students reading comprehension can be enhanced. So it gave me a clear insight, it gave me a clear line how I can go ahead, how I can work with them. So next slide, please. Maybe this is the last slide. So as a result, I came to know, I understood my current issue better. That was the most important part of this exploratory action research. And then my new understanding helped me what I should do ahead. And it was obvious to me. And the data showed that my students were weak at reading comprehension due to their poor prior knowledge. And then due to my own one-sided teaching, reading to them, and due to difficulty level of the text in their textbook. And the next one, lack of motivation and the same way of everyday teaching. They were bored bored with my same way of everyday teaching. These all things supported me to come to conclusion that my assumption before I took this exploratory strategy was completely wrong. I assumed something different. But here I came to a concluding point that I should use some interventions as my plans next, as an action plan. So from here, I will do something better for them. And as I am doing this exploratory action research, it will help me what I should do further as action research. So next, please. I think we have very limited time, sir.
Yeah.
So planning for change. Now I have planned some interventions with my students, but this will be the next part. Up to now, I have tested those all things whatever I thought about now. And now my next plan will be, first of all, I will look for some simple text from different sources that my students can read them easily in the classroom and talk about them, discuss on them. And then the students seem to be interested in what I will do next as usual activities. And then they are self-motivated, finding me active. I'm also looking active to them, and the overall school circumstances need to be in line with my planning. Means I expect some school environment as positive as I expect from them, like the head teacher's role and all other things that are needed to be helpful for my research. Sir.
Okay.
Is the next slide, sir?
This is the end of the slide, Puskar.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Puskarji, for this wonderful presentation. Dear participants, you might have seen Puskarji is quite ahead. Do not worry, like we are thinking of at this point for this month, we'll just be focused on finalizing questions. Next month, we'll finalize the strategies. I would also like to request, let's say we, the Action Research team, would like to request Puskarji as well to consider this as the trial. So probably that way we can delve much deeper in this research questions which you have framed, and then we can work together as well. So once you will have a kind of proper, let's say, understanding and then practice of this process, then later on you can shorten the time later. The action research can be conducted within a month as well. But this time what we are thinking of is we'll take you throughout the year in this process and then make you feel much make you feel be in this process in a more deeper way. So please work with us, and if you are pretty much ahead, that's fine. So I could see some questions here. So could you quickly answer this? Like, Parsu Shrestha sir has asked question like, what do you mean by everyday teaching journals? Are you available right now?
Journals, sir. So, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I started writing as soon as I started my explorative phase. I started keeping records of what I saw in my classroom, actually in front of me, how students reacted while I used different techniques to teach them in reading. And then I started to note down what they looked like, how I saw them, and then how I felt while doing. I think sometimes there are pains and gains while we try to do something in the classroom. So whatever I felt, it's unlike before. I did something different there. I worked for preparation for the reading texts and so many other things. Certainly there were some problems. There were some pains and yeah, problems. So I started recording them. I started writing how I felt and what my students talked to me, or how they showed their reaction or sharing in the classroom.
Okay, we got you. By everyday journal, your journal. Okay. Remark, because we
Yes,
don't
sir.
have much time, we need to wind it up within 10 to 15 minutes. So, do you mean guidelines? The
Okay,
process
sir.
researcher's question is, do you mean guidelines by focus group discussion?
So I don't mean to say guidelines by focus grouping. What I mean to say that I wanted to know something from. I wanted to hear something authentic sharing from my students. So how they feel about reading texts. I told them to talk in Nepali, and they just talked in Nepali, and everyone shared their views on reading. How they have been looking at my, or how they have been experiencing my reading them, and then how what their reading level, or how they have been reading at home since they joined the school, sir.
Okay, thanks a lot. The final question which Professor has asked, probably we can discuss it in the coming presentations, or in the coming, kind of asynchronous or both synchronous, let's say asynchronous and synchronous discussions as
Yes,
well.
sir.
So it's all about the plans, because still we are in the very former phase. So is that okay, Puskar sir? We'll be discussing it later, and because of the time constraint as well. Is thanks a lot. Now I'll go quickly to the Puskar sir's question, and then I'll hand it over to Suman sir to uh, talk about the plans of rest of the month. So Puskar sir's question, if we see here, what do my students think about? It's all about reading. Let's say it's all about the reading comprehension issue. By the way, so the question is, what do my students think about reading exercises or activities in English language lessons? Again, we can see here we are trying to find out, let's say, the perceptions of learners on the reading activities that the teacher makes them get involved in. Sometimes we might assume like we have come across really good reading material, and then we might use, but that might not work. So it's to find out the perception. Then strategies is definitely learners reflective note, making them write something about the reading activities that you are using in the classroom. Interviewing with students as well, this can be good strategies. These are only the few ones. Still, you can explore some more strategies, for example focus group discussion, and there are some other strategies which you can deploy. Second is, how do I teach them reading comprehension? This is really a good question. This is more reflective in nature. Purpose is to find out more information about the strategies that a teacher has used to teach reading comprehension. How do you find this then? How do I teach them reading comprehension? How do I know about this? Now, strategies is, you can interview with students and then find out how they have failed. You can ask colleagues as well to observe your class. But next one, yeah, and teachers' journals or notes, which beautifully uh, just before Bhatsar has mentioned, like we also can create our own journal, or our some notes, and which will make us realize like, okay, oh, these are the points which we can improve later. So this way, each question has its own purpose, and then each question can be let's say explored further through some strategies as well, which we have just mentioned a few here. Suman sir will deal the rest of them. Okay, now over to Suman sir without taking much time. Hello.
Hello,
Yep.
can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
That's good. Lakshman said that we need to call it cert. Yeah, I think we already led by 5 minutes, so I'll make it very, very short. As you can see on the slide, so what I want to talk about is what we want you to do for the next month, for the between the third and fourth webinar. Those of you who haven't I can hear my echo somewhere. Puskar sir, can you mute your mic? Also, Lakshman sir, if
Yes,
you
sir.
could if you could switch your mic,
Yes.
sorry, mute your mic, it would be, yeah. Thank you. All right. So yeah, so those of you who haven't, finalized your questions yet, if you could do it before the next month, we would appreciate that. We have tried to give you, individual like feedback on the questions. If you see the Google Doc, it's publicly, accessible. You should be able to see the feedback that we have given on your, colleagues' questions. So if you haven't written down your questions, Puskar sir, could you mute your mic, please?
Yes, sir.
It's not mute it. Can you see the mic, sign somewhere? No, it's still not. It's still on, and I can hear the echo. Anyways, okay, so please write down your questions on the Google Doc. Those of you who finished or will finalize your research questions, we have given you feedback. If you haven't finalized your research questions yet, please, reflect on the feedback that we have given and also reflect on the questions that you have listed. We'd like you to, revise them, finalize them, and if you finalize, we want you to, comment on your friends' work, probably give them guidance if you can. Because we appreciate, I mean, we all of us believe that, you have knowledge, you have experiences, and I think we'd like to, use leverage on that. We'd like to draw on that. Yeah, so that's the next thing to do. So looks like Puskar sir has already done some work. He's already collected some data, but we're thinking that May to July is the research period. That's when we would like you to do actual research. And also, the other thing that I forgot to mention was, while you're writing your questions, we'd like you to also think about your data collection strategies. We'll post a new, Google Doc. We won't ask you to write everything again. With the doc, with the research questions that we have already on the document, what we'll do is we'll copy it, make a duplicate, make a duplicate copy of it and share it on the Google, like share it on your email. And we'd like you to go to the file, think about your research questions, see whether they align with your research problems, whether they are researchable, and think about the research strategies that you would like to use. And some of the strategies that, some of the strategies, I think, Batsar and Saloniji, they've already discussed some of the strategies that they use. Saloniji, can you go to the next slide, please? Oh yeah, I mean, I've already talked about this. Next one. Right, yeah. Okay, so Vatsar and Saloniji said that they've collected some data, which we didn't expect them to do now, but it's okay because they've already done it. Nothing to lose. But I think, yeah, we'll give them some personalized feedback on that. But what we want you to do is finalize your research questions. Think about now, how you're going to collect data. Say you have a question and you would like to answer it through action research, right? So how are you going to do that? There are certain techniques and tools that you can use. Because it's short, I'm not going to discuss them in details. So some of the ways to collect data would be observation. Asking your colleagues to come and do an observation for you, fill out some form, and provide you feedback. You can write your diaries, reflective diaries where you discuss what went right, what didn't go, right, what went as you planned, what didn't go as you planned, and how did you feel about it, and what could have been done better, and sort of things. Audio and video recordings. You can record, your own class. You can do video recordings or you can do audio recordings, and both of them have their own pros and cons. If you do video recordings, you either need probably 3-4 cameras to take it from 4 different angles, or if you're taking the video with just a single camera, then you probably need someone to move the camera around as you go around the class and speak to students. So that could be a disadvantage of, or yeah, I mean, let's call it a disadvantage or technical challenge of using a video recording. Whereas if you just use audio recording, you might be able to get the voice but not the facial expressions and accents. So think about it, what you can do and what you can't do, what are your limitations, right? Interviews, you can interview students, you can interview colleagues, ask about questions, or ask about ask questions around your issues. Questionnaires, I'll talk about life history processor in a while. Questionnaires such as, I mean, like, make a list of questions, have them fill out, yes, no, agree, disagree, and sort of things. Have them rate their opinions on certain items, or on a number of items that you feel are important. All right, items meaning question items. That's what I'm saying. Life histories. Now, this is an interesting. Life histories are, like having, let's say, I mean, having your students write about their own, background, such as their socioeconomic background, about their family, about, about their academic background, if they are new to your school. Say, like, many of the questions that we got on Google Doc was about, low academic performance. Like, the teacher said that not all students performed equally, and we agree with that. And there can be multiple factors. So as Lakshman has just said that, live streaming, I mean, as I said, the family background, for example, their socioeconomic background. You don't ask them, how rich or poor they are, but you might ask them what language they speak at home, or what jobs their parents have, where do they live, and sort of things, because sometimes the family background, the socioeconomic background, the academic background can impact their recent, their current performance. And student produced materials, such as, like, if you're concerned about writing, have students write essays and see whether your interventions made an impact. Or even on life history, like, I was talking to Sagunji earlier, and Sagunji suggested that probably students can write poems about themselves or stories about themselves, which so that gives you a glimpse of where they are, who they are, what makes them who they are. All right. I don't have my students with me these days. They have exams to attend. I belong to 10+2. We have no classes these days, and still just I have my students. Okay, we'll talk about that, sir. So these are some of the data collection techniques. If you see the book that we shared, written by Richard and Paula, the 5th chapter in the book, called "How Can I Explore," has like at least 10-11 different strategies or tools, which they call research methods. So different tools that you can use to collect data. And again, these are written in a very simple language, and you can follow it. So please read through them. Don't have time, otherwise I would love to talk about each of these. All right. So please go through them and then decide which tool might help you best to answer your research questions. All right. So that's it. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. It was really good. I would love to focus this part a little bit. I mean, I'll just highlight what you had told
Yeah.
earlier, so that this could address the question of Pokhrel sir or Pokhrel ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
So May to July is the research period. What we will do is we'll call 3 to 5 participants as a presenter here, and then make them share what they've been doing, or what kind of issues they're facing as well. So do not worry, we have a year-long period. Sometimes it might happen like some of you might be working uh, let's a little slower, and then some of you might be working kind of little faster, so it might happen as well. But this will be a kind of tentative research period, and yes, we'll be definitely guiding as well. And Suman sir, which was, let's say, the person, I mean, the strategies that Suman sir discussed, that's important right now. So we'll as he told, like, we'll be sharing Google Doc, and then you will work on that as well. But bear it in mind, like, your research period will be May to July. So you don't need to worry too much right now. You just need to focus on the strategies which you will use to explore the questions. So any questions particularly to Suman sir? Let me see. What is life history? This is already answered, I think.
Yeah.
Pokreal sir, do you mean you were the only okay? Yeah. Try to use with addressing not Persis research question, but it's Pokreal sir's question again. Try to don't try to make it more complicated. Try to work as per the resources available. If you don't have co-teacher, if your teacher is let's say if your co-teacher or the other colleague is part-time, yeah, try to use other different strategies which can help you to explore this question which you have. That's it. So we are right now, it's we are already late as well, so if you have any questions then you can drop right now. So Suman sir or Lakshman sir, if you have anything to share further still, yeah, you can share in a quick note.
I think yeah, Sumanji, yes.
All right.
I think we've done we've made good progress. So the message for all the participants is now they need to move ahead and be ready for the intervention from May. So they have 1 month in between for their further exploration and further investigation. So that's our plan. So we'll communicate via email and also via Edmodo. Yes.
And once again, my final note is we are trying our level best to give some of the feedback as per our own kind of understanding and learning to you. Sometimes we may not be prompt enough as well. We do acknowledge this fact because it's a lot of questions and we need to go individually. So what you can do is if you don't, what you need to think rather than you can do is you can wait for till the next week. But if you post our let's say suggestion or our request to you is if you try to post your assignment quite in advance, it actually gives us ample of time to go through and then to write you promptly. Otherwise what happens is if you happen to post your any assignment at the end of let's say the month, and then it will be really hectic for us as well to go through. So if you understand or if you acknowledge this fact and then try to work, then it will be much easier for us as well. So please, we encourage you to post quite in advance once we come across some assignments and post by next week. Thank you. That's my request. Suman sir, anything?
The only thing that I want to say is reiterate what I just said. Make sure you finalize your questions. Think about the strategies. I think those are the most important things to do. Consider the suggestions that Lakshman sir gave. Make sure that they align well, and post them well in advance so that we can give you personalized feedback and we can help you make improvement if need be. Otherwise, I think that'll give you time to explore around, and we'll see you next month. We'll be in communication through email and Edmodo.
Thanks. And finally, thanks to Saloni ma'am and then Puskar.
Just one more facility. Okay. One more facility. I don't know. I don't want to be bombarded by a lot of telephone calls, but if any participant has serious question or problem, and then they don't get enough support or they're confused and then you talk, then maybe they can call me on my mobile. I think everybody has my mobile number. If not, they can write to me by email. I can call back. Okay,
great. Thank you so much everyone, and especially today thanks to Saloni ma'am and then Puskar sir and then Lakshman sir as well for the good guidance towards them. Yeah, and we are always together. Thank you. Bye. Namaste.